Ulrek, carrier of the first flame. When I was in middle school, I said I was going to do this video, and then I decided not to do it, but I decided that I want to do this video. In, middle school, we had to come up with a story, kind of like, religion does, where you explain things that, you can't really explain, I guess, like, through religious nonsense, and that is where I came up with Ulrek, carrier of the first flame. At the beginning of whatever, the world, man crawled on all fours, lived naked, ate shit, fucked, and, was jealous of one another, and everybody worked against everybody worked against one another. Everybody was greedy. Everybody was aggressive. Mothers didn't care for their children. Fathers didn't care for their children. Everything was cannibalistic, incest, survival, and everybody's brain was permanently trapped in survival mode, crawling on all fours, living in their own shit, only caring about themselves, only serving hunger. All they wanted to do was eat, fuck, and have things. There was a version of man that collected shiny things. There was a version of man that just ate and slept all day. There was a version that was exceptionally lazy and used everybody around them to get what they wanted. They would wait for a stronger human to go do the risky business of killing something only to capitalize on the kill and eat the scraps of what that person left behind. They were savage, mindless animals. For the lazy people, cannibalism of the children was a normal thing. They would give birth and then eat the baby to sustain their own lives. They were angry, furious people that were hunters. They were the most aggressive, and they were the most violent. They had low numbers all the time, and they lived in a society, non-society, there was no society, where they just attacked one another, and only the strongest person was the one in charge, but that person wasn't in charge for very long, because after getting in fights long enough, that person would die, and they would kill and eat him, believing it would make them stronger. And so we run into Ulrek. Ulrek is one of these creatures. He is mindlessly eating a baby. He has fucked this woman, and everybody's diseased. There's no cure for, no vaccine, so everybody's diseased. Everybody has HIV or some type of STD. There's an area where a group of these people who basically have like fruits and food all around them, all they do is fuck. They eat and fuck. That's it. Ulrek is with a female that's horribly mutilated, partially eaten, but still alive, because everybody's a savage, stupid animal. And he is eating a baby, and then he is struck by lightning. Massive, and my story explains a massive flash ascends from the heavens, claiming Ulrek, firing him with great power. His hair stands on end. It explodes. It hits him with so much energy. It explodes from his fingertips and hands. And the electrical blast forces him to go from standing on all fours to standing erect. He's standing up, and the light is shooting through his body. He is being fried. And the issue with ancient man is they only have negative neurons in their brain. So they're evil, because negative means evil. Just like how man discovered DC electricity before we discovered AC electricity. So Ulrek gets fried, and he becomes the first man. He stands upright as the electricity shoots out of his body, and he becomes the marked. He gets von Lichtenstein scars all over, bruises all over his body from lightning passing through him. And in this, his brain gets infused with positive neurons, causing the awakening of the conscious mind. Consciousness is the gift God bestows upon Ulrek by shocking him with lightning. Ulrek, standing up in shock from being shocked, looks around and sees other things exist other than himself. he sees the people crawling on all fours through shit and mud and filth and fucking and eating their own children and killing mindlessly. And then he sees a burning branch that was left behind by the lightning shock, and he grabs it. That is why he is Ulrek of the First Flame, because he discovers fire, and it burns him, and at first he's terrified. His baboon brain tells him to be terrified of it. His rational brain tells him that can light the darkness, and they are in darkness. Because he passed out, he was struck during the day, and then he passed out and woke up at night. So he grabs the first flame. As people begin to surround him, looking to kill and eat him because he's weird, he's standing upright. That's not natural. That's unnatural. It's strange. It's not okay. They start growling and raising their teeth and threatening to kill Ulrek, and they're terrified of the fire. So Ulrek grabs the fire, and he begins the trek into the darkness alone. And as he travels, his brain sees, and as his brain sees, it learns, and as it learns, it develops, and as it develops, he marches on. Ulrek finds himself at the base of a shattered mountain with lots of stones. He begins to stack these stones, moving them around, putting them in places, putting them all over what appears to be random chaos at first. His brain decides it likes geometry, so he begins stacking this, taking nature and bending it to his will and moving it to his will. This is very unnatural for natural human beings. And he builds a temple for the first flame. The temple is a massive square building with like rectangle like walls or whatever, like how like the top of the building square, and there's a pyramid in the middle of it that's flat for the first flame. He builds a fire up there, puts the first flame up there, believing that he cannot be alone, that there is somebody else, that the God, the Lord, the sky being will strike other people with the holy light of enlightenment and awakening and conscious minds. So he goes up there, and he waits. And he becomes the first scholar of the first flame, the discoverer and scholar of the first flame. He begins theorizing, he begins thinking, he begins coming up with things. He starts coming up with more and more complex ideas. And as he waits, eventually other people are struck by lightning. A woman that is body's riddled with syphilis, holes all over her, rotting with maggots eating her, gets struck by lightning. The maggots die, the disease temporarily resides, and she awakens, covered in the markings, the von Liechtenstein bruises. And she sees the tall building in the distance, and wanders toward the first flame. Drawn to it like a moth, she grabs her fire and begins the long trek to Ulrik's temple. When she arrives, she becomes the second scholar of the first flame, and her and Ulrek begin a rudimentary form of communication, not with words, not with direct communication, but through body language, movement, and understanding. They stare at one another. These two creatures begin to commingle. Not in the sense of coitus, not in the need for sex, but in a need for understanding and the fact that they are the two unique beings that have been chosen by God to have the conscious mind. Ulrek points out that along the facility that the unconscious people want to kill and eat them. They are constantly being plotted on. So Ulrek has designed weapons and all types of things to keep them back. The fire keeps the unconscious away because they don't understand it. They only know they don't like it. Many moons pass, more people are struck by lightning, they are all drawn to Ulrik's tower. Ulrik's village begins to develop. Reproduction, science, and above all else, communication. Not through body language, but through the verbal word and the recordings of Ulrek as he ages. Ulrek asks, for the first time in his language, to the woman, "Are you in pain from the disease?" To which the woman replies, basically, "Yeah, I'm in pain." Ulrich puts together the houses of treatment, the houses of science, the houses of math, the houses of the scholars, and the brutality and understanding of the world. Society continues to develop, and the unconscious begin gathering in small numbers outside, speaking of the unnaturalness of the temple. It is weirdly shaped. It does not look like anything in nature. It is very geometrical. It has a fire on top. The people are weird. They walk standing up. They don't grunt and groan and speak in body language. So the unconscious, even though they are individuals, are gathering, and they don't talk so much as gesture. There's no communication amongst them, just clicking noises and posture. As this continues, the Ulrich decides that they need to begin basically snatching babies from the unconscious people. And there's groups of people that are sent out to try to communicate with the unconscious and try to make them conscious. Differing efforts, differing plans, the kingdom's expanding. This is a communist kingdom. It is not based in capitalism. Ulrich sits down with his students and begins to note the importance of each individual, noting that those that are greedy and covet shiny things are really good at coming up with structures to get shiny things. Those that are slothful and lazy are really good at simplifying complex information. Those that are of the scholarly mind are very good at unraveling very complex ideas, but really bad at explaining it to people. That is where the slothful, lazy ones come in. They're really good at simplifying it because they don't want to do a lot of work. The angry, wrathful people who used to wander the land when they are struck by lightning come into his kingdom as justice. Not revenge, but justice. The lawbringers of the world. Not savage anger, but true, honest justice. The highly sexualized, lustful beings of the kingdom, they enter the kingdom and they bring passion. They bring compassion, sympathy, empathy, and compassion with them. They are the lustful ones. High sex drive, high understanding. Yeah. They fall in love with everyone and everything. Ulrich begins to assign them mates and scholars in order to write down their ways and comprehend their psychologies to create psychology. Early psychology is not what we perceive it as today, but a series of notes written down about individual personalities with linking key traits. Kind of like a zodiac. So, the gluttonous ones, the ones that just eat all day, they develop the culinary arts in complex meals with complex palates. These individuals are also lumped in with the greedy ones who care for shiny things because they're also really good at developing complex structures in order to get the ingredients they need for their food. As time goes on, Ulrich eventually dies. The scholar of the first flame grows old and dies. Upon his death, the girl that came there, whatever the fuck her name was, becomes the leader and scholar of the first flame. And she begins to share Ulrich's words with the world, developing schools and training and learning. The kingdom begins to grow. The unconscious grow more discerned and angry at this thing they don't understand. They see children that should be fair game. They should be ready to be eaten when they leave the kingdom, and yet they are protected by other people. People help one another. They work together. They love one another. This doesn't sit well with the unconscious. The unconscious don't like this. These structures, they make no sense. So they attack. They raid the kingdom one day. A massive, chaotic, crazy attack. They ignore the fires on the outside they have one goal: destroy the first flame. It needs to be destroyed. Everything these people do is unnatural, from walking upright to communicating to talking to caring to understanding to thinking. They are all against God's natural earth. The question is which is God? Is he the lightning strike? Or is God that thing that created these creatures with no minds? So, they succeed. They destroy the kingdom. They enslave the scholars. They put them in cages. They're about to kill them all. And the leader of them goes to the top of the tower to extinguish the first flame. And he does so. He throws a bunch of rocks on it until it is out. And then he runs across Daggett. Daggett, the bastard of the first flame. Daggett, the bastard of the first flame, is a descendant of Ulrek of the first flame. And he doesn't agree with a damn word Ulrek came up with, arguing that Ulrek was the first caveman to walk his ass out of the woods, and there's no fucking way that he knew for a fact God existed. He argued that there was no fucking way Ulrek, because he had a bunch of theories. One of the theories Ulrek has is lightning is trapped in the ocean because salt is in there, and salt, as we know, rubs against one another, creating friction. So lightning came from the ocean. This is one of the things Ulrek states in his writings. Daggett, the bastard of the first flame, and he explains to the leader of the unconscious that he is the bastard, to which the unconscious man, the leader of the unconscious, growls at him. Doesn't say anything, just growls. And he explains to him the bastard of the first flame is somebody that is against all of Ulrik's teachings, and that he believes that he can get along with the unconscious leader of the unconscious people because he doesn't agree with Ulrik's teachings to begin with. In fact, he's happy that the unconscious person is destroying all of Ulrik's writings because they opened a bunch of schools to teach people stupid nonsense. And it's all out of date and it doesn't make any fucking sense to begin with. And he, the leader, begins to approach immigrants, acting hostile. So Ulrek tells him, I'm one of the slothful ones. And he points out into his vast kingdom that he's one of the lazy people. And he understands things simplified. He doesn't like learning complex things. That hurts. And the leader of the group, the unconscious leader, slowly begins to warm up to Daggett, the bastard of the first flame. And through this guy, Daggett understands that these people, what they mistook for hatred of the kingdom, the prosperity, because the leader of these people saw the disease going away, he saw the rot going away, he saw the cannibalism going away, he saw the animal dying and submitting to society, and he didn't like it. Daggett eventually, after a long time of conversating with this guy, accuses him of being envy. Tells him you're jealous that we were living together in peace. And you wanted that for yourself because you're out there terrified, living in the woods among other creatures who would kill and eat you without a second thought. And Daggett and the unconscious leader become good friends, but the kingdom of intelligence never fully arises because the unconscious people are terrified of intelligent thought. And they are terrified of the chosen. So they appoint themselves controllers and masters of the chosen, which are the guys who are struck by lightning. And Daggett the bastard, basically facilitates this and arguing that this is the only way to keep everybody safe. So instead of killing and eating the first scholars, they are released on the grounds that they do not follow those scholars, but they follow Daggett's instruction. And Daggett is instructed by the unconscious leader of the unconscious people who are mindless and stupid. And they bastardize society from a golden kingdom of intelligence and the gardens of Babylon and the libraries of Babylon and all the mathematics into a stupider society, a simpler society, a mindless society, and they rage against intelligence. That was my made-up stupid story in middle school.